In 2014, Russia took control of Crimea from Ukraine, claiming it as their own. The annexation was done under false pretenses.
Russian troops moving swiftly to take control of military bases.
We are now deeply concerned by reports
16,000 Russian troops.
Experts are wondering what Russia is up to after looking at satellite
images.
They
can see part of their country.
And despite objections from the international community, Russia managed to seize the region. However, recent developments suggest that Russian troops are now moving swiftly to expand their military presence. Satellite imagery reveals that part of Ukraine, possibly Ukrainians themselves, have been ordered not to resist. While the United States officially labels it as a Russian invasion of Ukraine,
well, because now the Ukrainian boogeyman has come to collect his due. Don't take my word.
President Vladimir Zelensky has expressed their determination to reclaim all their territories, including Crimea. According to Zelensky, Ukraine's position is clear. There can be no victory in this war without the restoration of Crimea. Before delving into the details of Zelensky's plan, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude to all of you for watching and supporting my videos. Your engagement means a lot to me, so please consider liking this video and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Now let's discuss the basics. The unrest in Crimea began in 2014 when pro-Russian protesters became increasingly assertive, causing disturbances in the region. Subsequently, armed groups surrounded key areas, such as airports and the Crimean Parliament building. Their objective was to integrate Crimea into Russia, and they replaced the existing government with pro-Russian lawmakers while severing all communication with Ukraine. Russia justified its military presence as a means to protect its citizens, but this was merely a pretext. Putin's long-term plan was already in motion. With further military intervention and a biased referendum, Crimea ultimately fell into Russian hands. Although many nations opposed the annexation, Russia's military power and global influence limited the response. The United States and European Union countries...
Don't take my word for it. Listen to these words echoed by Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky in January at the World Economic Forum.
Putin's arguments regarding Crimea's annexation, claims that Crimea holds vital historic significance to Moscow, or is a holy land for all Russians, are mere propaganda employed by Putin to justify the takeover. Crimea's history is not unique compared to other regions under Russian rule throughout the centuries. Various regions and countries, from Belarus to the Baltics, possess equally rich histories, without granting Russia any legitimate claim over them. While it is acknowledged that Crimea has a historical past, it is essential to distinguish between the land's occupation and the alleged deep-rooted connection that Putin asserts. In fact, the majority Russian presence in Crimea only occurred at the beginning of the Second World War, when hundreds of thousands of indigenous Crimean Tatars were forcefully expelled from the region, severing the political and social ties that Putin seeks to establish. According to recent analysis of satellite images, it has been observed that Russian forces are reinforcing the Crimean Peninsula, anticipating a potential Ukrainian attempt to recapture the region. Aware of Ukraine's desire to regain control over Crimea, Russia has taken proactive measures to prepare its defenses. These defensive measures consist of an extensive network of trenches and barricades that span across the border villages of Crimea, creating a formidable "you shall not pass" situation amidst the trenches. In addition to fortifications, Russia has initiated the construction and expansion of multiple significant military bases, aimed at augmenting its military capabilities in the area. Over the past 24 hours, approximately 20,000 Russian soldiers have been mobilized across Crimea, entrenching their defenses swiftly. The rapid establishment of these defenses has instilled fear and concern among the residents of Crimea. It is evident that regaining control of Crimea will be an arduous task. The significance of Crimea to Putin goes beyond its economic value. Its strategic location holds immense importance. With its military advantage, Crimea provides Russia with the capability to launch attacks on Ukrainian military strongholds from the south, enabling them to operate on two fronts. Defending against such a scenario is a daunting challenge.
Now, as Putin fights Ukraine, Crimea still holds an essential position in this conflict.
Crimea can carry out long-range attacks with ease. This poses a nightmare for Ukraine in terms of defense and retaliation. The threats posed by Russia extend beyond military strikes. Due to Crimea's geographical position, Moscow can also jeopardize Ukrainian and broader Black Sea maritime security. This includes tactics like blockading Ukrainian exports, such as grain.
The region has a military advantage to it, but
that's
not enough geologically. Crimea
Crimea
doesn't even share a direct land.
Blockading and frustrating the enemy, rather than outright defeating them. As long as Crimea remains under Russian control, Ukraine will be under constant threat. Russia will continue to have operational bases from which they can consistently harass Ukraine. Rewritten article. Ukraine is exploring a strategic approach to regain control over Crimea, opting for a methodical series of well-planned offensives, rather than a sudden blitz similar to Russia's initial attack. This approach, endorsed by retired Army Lieutenant General Stefan Twitty, a former deputy commander of U.S. European Command and current distinguished fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis, highlights the significance of incremental land reclamation. Twitty envisions Ukraine's strategy to involve capturing smaller sections of territory rather than attempting a large-scale offensive to reclaim the entire 800-mile border region from Donbas to Crimea. Drawing inspiration from their actions in the previous summer, Ukraine will prioritize a series of offensive operations, enabling a gradual advancement towards regaining control. Now, the question arises as to how Ukraine intends to execute these operations, considering their plan to launch multiple offensives in this campaign. The opening of the bridge in 2018 was presided over by Putin himself. By consistently disrupting this crucial entry point, Russia will find it difficult to reinforce its troops in Crimea, hastening their eventual defeat. During a recent attack on the bridge, Zelensky indirectly acknowledged the incident without addressing its cause. In a video message, he remarked, "Today was a mostly sunny day on our state's territory, although it was cloudy and warm in Crimea. Quite a daring move, if you ask me." Now, let me clarify that this operation will not be a walk in the park. However, unlike the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, Crimea has strategic vulnerabilities that can be exploited against Russia. These vulnerabilities include the bridge and intercepting supply boats, providing Ukraine with a position of strength. Any military strategist knows that cutting off supply lines is a significant advantage. If Russia cannot arm or reinforce its troops effectively, the clock starts ticking against them. So, what happens once these tactics have been successfully executed? Well, that's when the final phase of the plan unfolds. Once Crimea has been significantly weakened through a siege and multiple drone attacks, it will be time to execute the decisive blow. And yes, I mean this in a literal sense. The last step in Ukraine's strategy involves sending ground troops to liberate Crimea and eliminate any remaining Russian resistance. Ukraine's ground troops will also take control of the military bases and key infrastructure areas that will forever secure Crimea from Russian intervention. The main advantage that Ukraine has over Russia is that they are very well supplied, with the entirety of NATO supplying them with weapons and funds. Ukraine definitely has longevity in this war that outlasts Russia by all metrics. Now, Russia does not have enough resources to contain the situation, and its outdated weapons have really shown their hand. Russia has been exposed to be the tiger with, well, maybe it has a bit of a bite, but it's a weak one. The only worry would be Russia resorting to nuclear weapons, and if they were to do this, NATO would no doubt get involved directly. But like I always say, nuclear wars have no winners. So there you have it. That is Ukraine's plan to take back Crimea. The interesting part is, even with this knowledge, there is little to nothing that Russia can do to guard against it. They have neither the resources nor the room to pose a direct threat to the Ukrainians' plan. I don't know when the liberation will begin, but what I do know for a fact is that when it comes, it will be the push that changes the war and that region of the world forever. Another thing that changed the world forever was nuclear weapons, but many countries in the world still don't use nuclear weapons. In fact, there are countries like Ukraine who once had nukes but willingly gave them up. Drop a sub there as well. Thank you.